Welcome to the Home Business Podcast with Richard Captain Henderson, publisher of Home Business Magazine, and Sherilyn Colleen, managing editor. This how-to show helps you successfully operate your home-based business.
Greetings and welcome to the Home Business Podcast. I'm Richard Captain Henderson, your skipper at Home Business TV. Let's secure, proceed, and get underway. After selling his successful supply chain software development business, this tech expert didn't know what to do with his life. But Victor Allis and his partner, Sara Gifford, shared a common passion to make democracy work better. So they co-founded ActiVote, a first of its kind nonpartisan app to simplify elections and empower U.S. citizens to vote. With America now sailing into the midterm election cycle, what better subject to talk about than this app and Vote-Preneur, Victor Allis. I'm also fired up for this subject as I've thrown my hat in the ring to run for my local community, Lakeville, Minnesota's city council race. So greetings, Victor Allis. Welcome to the Home Business Podcast. Say hello to our audience.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. And you're dialing in from the bustling East Coast tech hub of Boston, Massachusetts.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, being like in a known tech hub like that, was that helpful to you in getting your app developed?
It is helpful just in meeting lots of people that are doing lots of cool things. So it gives you the feeling that anything is possible. I think that's the most helpful part of it.
Yeah, you know, they kind of talk about it's not really, I guess, actually the technology, but just kind of the vibe from where you live. If it kind of syncs up with what you do, maybe just you get a better feeling for it, and it's you know, easier to work day to day being in the right kind of community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Victor Allis, let's get to know you better. How did you get together with Sara Gifford, your partner, prior to co-founding ActiVote?
Yeah, we actually worked at the supply chain company that I founded, which was called Quintig, and that helped big businesses optimize their operations. And we met each other there, and once we sold the company, we realized we missed the tech challenge. And when we thought that we could help out with something that's important to all Americans, and that is elections, we decided to team up. And it's actually three of us. There's someone who doesn't like, to speak up that much, but he's doing a lot of the technology, Paul-Eric Rouet, and he's from that same company. So we're three people who moved on to do this.
So I imagine you're all working at this company, then you realize you have different talents or different skill sets, which is always a good thing. You don't want to all come in with the same talent for developing like something technical like an app.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we have one person who is, staring at the computer screen all day, making the app work. And then we have Sara, who's talking to everyone who wants to hear about it. And then there's me working on some of the more complex mathematical concepts that are involved in the app. So everybody has their role.
That's good. So you all kind of, you felt like you all kind of synced together, and there weren't any gaps or problems that you weren't being able to keep covered. It was a pretty good team. Yeah,
and since we worked so long together, you basically know where everybody's strengths and weaknesses are, and that works out really well. So we've now done it for 4 years, and we really enjoy it every day.
Now, were you in the Boston area then too, for this business?
No, previously I was in Philadelphia, and my business was a worldwide business, so I also spent quite some time overseas.
Cool. Well, cool startup story. After selling your software development business, what motivated you and your team there to use your tech talents to improve democracy?
So one of the things that we kept from our supply chain experience is that we try to make things more efficient. It helps to make the world more efficient. And so then when we looked at the elections, we realized that there is actually a really big problem. And I noticed that when I volunteered for a few months for a local election here, and I realized that there was a complete difference between the voters on the one hand and the campaigns on the other hand. We're now getting to the midterm seasons, and probably people are now inundated with sometimes ads on television or flyers that they find in their mailbox, or people that calling them from numbers that they don't recognize.
Mhm.
And in almost all those cases, voters go like, yeah, I don't want to talk to these people. I don't believe what's in this flyer. And there's another negative ad. So there's kind of this feeling that they're being sold on something that they actually don't want to be sold on. But then on the other hand, when elections actually happen, especially primary elections or local elections, then sometimes people don't know that there is an election in the first place. And then when they look at the ballot, they look at all those names and they go like, who are these people? So there is on the one hand, campaigns trying to sell you on something you don't want to buy. And then by the time it's time to vote, people don't vote or don't know who those people on their ballot are.
Yeah, isn't it kind of just, it's just kooky where people, because I'm getting to know, this more in my campaign, people are walking in, they look at a ballot and they don't have the slightest idea who the person is. And it's like they end up like choosing a name the way they pick out a brand of toilet paper in the supermarket. It's kind of like what ID, what name ID, that crazy thing of name ID, and it's perplexing.
Yes, and so what we thought is, what if we turn this around? What if we make an app that is really only for voters, that really feels like it's made for them, it's totally free, and allows them to figure out who they want to vote for. It's a non-partisan app, so it's for Republicans, it's for Democrats, it's for independents, and it's also for libertarians and Green Party and other parties. And if someone feels that nobody is trying to sell them anything, but simply they can figure out before they go to the polling station who the people are behind those names, so that people are more confident to vote for whoever they want to vote for. That was basically the mission we embarked on. That turns out to be more complex than you might think, because like you're saying, you're running for a city council position. And most people know who the governor or senator candidates are in a race, but for city council,
they don't even know there's a city council race.
Yeah, or what district they live in, or the difference between district and
and there's so much information out there, and it's overwhelming, and and coming at you from all sides, in the mailbox, on your smartphones, on TV. But first, let's talk a little bit about your app. A substantial percentage of Americans do not vote. How does ActiVote turn non-voters into voters?
Yeah, so let me look at the two main reasons that people don't vote. One reason we can't do much about, and it is in some states, voting is just more difficult for some people than for others. If you just changed address, you need to register, you need to take time off to do that, and that's sometimes more difficult than in other places. And in other states, you may only be able to vote on election day, and if you have a long shift on that day and it's far away from where you live, there are some reasons that it's really inconvenient for people to vote. That's only one reason we can't really help that much. But the other reason is that people often aren't confident because they don't know who are on the ballot, they don't know who the people are behind those names. And that is what we solve. And the way we solve it is very simple. People download the app on their iOS or Android phone, it's free. And then very quickly they put in their name and their address, and then we find their voter registration. And we have all the voter registrations, everyone in the country we can link to. And then we can say, so you live there, that means your next election is then, these are the people on your ballot. And we keep that constantly updated. So if someone drops out of a race, it disappears from your ballot. If someone enters a race, it appears there. And then what we do is, when an election comes up, we warn you when you can start getting an absentee ballot. We warn you when early voting opens. We show you where your polling location is. And so we constantly remind people not only about when it is, but we also help them figure out who they want to vote for. That's basically,
so I guess kind of a part of this that I'm hearing that I didn't pick up before is voting is a complicated process that starts all the way from registration and primary, then through electing. So you kind of help us organize the information and put it and present it then in a simplified way that somebody, I guess, can look at right from their phone.
Yes, and it's totally personalized. So you only once have to give in who you are and where you live. And that means that if there's redistricting, like there was last year, then we figure out what your new district is and then who the people are that you can vote for. And we do that for every single election. So every single time there's an election, whether it's a local election or midterm or primary, then your phone app will constantly tell you, hey, this is your next election in so many days, and these are the people on the ballot. And what we find is that many people, when they look at the app, realize, oh, I knew I could vote for governor. I didn't know that I could also vote for my state rep. Oh, and who is this district attorney? That's actually a really important position.
And don't forget city council.
And city council. And so the goal is that people constantly can think of, oh, this one place, this is where I can find it. And what we then do for every single candidate, and again, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, whenever you see a candidate, besides that we show a little bit background from them, including, picture and their work history and their previous experience, but we also have links to all their website and social media. So if you look at the candidate and you think that's an interesting person.
So you have a way of collating the information. I mean, like how would you pull up a bio on a candidate, like a written bio? I mean, you obviously can't key all that stuff in yourself. It's aggregating this information from information that's already available.
Yeah, the good news is there's many organizations that try to collect information like that from the city council website, or and so we work with many of those partners that have that information, and we suck that into our app, and then we make sure that we select the ones that are applicable to you. So you would see, you're in Minnesota, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so that means you would see relevant Minnesota elections and also your local elections, where I would see Massachusetts elections and things that are specific to Boston.
Well, cool. I like a little bit more about your entrepreneurial journey. Like, for example, app development is expensive. Did you have to line up investors to help create your app? Were there any other significant challenges you had to putting together an app?
So in my previous entrepreneurial life, I started the business in 1997, and I had to go to banks to get some money, and then we had to work really hard and work 7 days a week and put our houses
like
up.
An entrepreneur 7 days a week.
Exactly, and then and so we had to do all of that. But then when I sold my business in a few years ago, I was very fortunate to get enough money for it that we can actually fund this ourselves. And the reason we like that is that we don't have to constantly listen to other people telling us what to do, and we can just make a tool that is really great for individual voters. And that also means that we don't need to get any ad revenue or anything else. All we do is we make sure that every single voter in the US has a way to know how to vote in any election. And that's, so there's no investors behind this. It's just us putting up some money.
And isn't that great? Really I've just heard horror stories of, investors moving into the company and like, what's going on? And then they're getting nervous and, getting that return on investors. So that's a good way you were able to do this. What were some of the biggest technology challenges you faced in getting a workable downloadable app?
Yeah, there's a few of those. So the first thing is we work with many different organizations that collect data, and we buy that from them, but then we need to combine that. And it turns out that some organizations have really good data about federal elections, and others have really good data about local elections. And then, and it's all different. And there's all sorts of little technical challenges. You need to figure out that Bernie Sanders is the same person as Bernard Sanders, and Joe Biden is the same as, Joseph Biden, Joseph R. Biden. And so just making sure that you don't have double counts and that you have the right people. And then another thing is that you need to make sure that the data updates because people drop out of races, and then you want to make sure that that's visible. Another challenge is when you publish apps, both Apple and Google have all sorts of requirements that your app needs to fulfill. So you need to make sure that works well. Then we have, of course, the security issues. We have taken a lot of efforts to make sure that all our data remains confidential. And when people interact with the app, they can leave their opinions on what do I think of this, what do I think of that. And as a result, they build up a profile that helps them figure out who they would like to vote for. And our users find it really important that that is protected. So we have done all the cybersecurity things that are necessary. And
so when you're doing this, you have to collect people's personal data somehow. So you have to have then a way of protecting it with cybersecurity.
Yeah. So people tell us where they live and who they are now. that's also in the voter registration file. But then we want to make sure that they are certain that anything they leave in the app is protected and doesn't go anywhere. There have been lots of stories from all sorts of companies that people didn't like. So we are making sure that is fully protected. And we do something else that is really important to make the app a success. And it is people can answer questions and indicate what they think of people and who they plan to vote for, so that they have a reminder that when they worked out, oh, I like this person, that 10 days later when they go to vote, that oh, who did I like? And they can just look in the app.
Oh, so you're kind of tracking their opinions already.
Yes, and
keep them over.
So, and by people putting that in, what we then can do and give back to the community of all our users, when 1,000 of our users indicate that they like something or don't like something, then we can publish a blog and say, hey, this is what our users think. And we find that our users find that really interesting. So when there is a question about a topic that is in the news, then our users like to say, okay, well, this is what I think. Now, what do other people think? And you can see that it helps people think about candidates, about policy positions.
Because you're helping to share, I guess you're helping to share opinions then through the whole thing.
Yes, and we have found that is one of the reasons our users come back on what we call daily democracy. Every day, the app prompts you with one little action for 1 minute. Sometimes it is, hey, look at the district attorney race, because you need to vote within 6 weeks. Or it says, hey, abortion is in the news because of the Supreme Court decision. What do you think about abortion? Or student debt relief. There was just something.
You keep a weight on a daily basis to have some interaction and keep communicating with your audience then.
Absolutely. And what the result of that is that by the time people actually go to vote, they realize, hey, I took all these little daily actions, which took me 1 minute a day. And now I feel that I'm really informed. It's not like the day before election cramming for an exam. There's all these people I need to figure out. It's much more.
I bet half the people just walk in there and they haven't even thought about it.
Yes.
How, just out of interest, how long did it take you to debug from a technological perspective? How long did it take to debug your app?
So we've now been at it for 3.5 years. We had the first version live after 6 months. But the version that we now have for the 2022 midterms is, so much more sophisticated than what we had when we started for the 2020 election. So, we're now really happy with the app. In 2020, it was still a bit of a first.
Oh, now it's showtime. So,
absolutely.
It's expensive. There's a lot of money involved. How do you monetize the app ongoing to keep it a viable business model while you're helping to make democracy work better?
Yeah, so at the moment, we are fortunate that we don't need to do that. The 3 people working for it full time are just doing that as a hobby. We are all retired from business, and we all fund this hobby by putting in some money on a yearly basis. And in that way, we can guarantee that we're totally non-partisan, that we're not influenced by anyone else, and that we don't sell anyone's data. We don't take any ads in, all those things that basically make people not like apps. All those reasons we don't have.
No, I can see I could really get your hands burned if there was money in the background and then somebody found out they were aligned with some group, and that could really blow up.
Yeah, and that's what we don't do therefore. We just want to help voters because we think democracy is really important.
So, you are running a pretty good sized company. How do you work what I like to call a home-based hybrid model for your employees working from home?
Yeah, so what the beauty of technology nowadays is that it's very easy to do that. So everything that you do in the cloud is with Amazon Web Services and stuff like that. So you don't need to have a big data center that's out there. Laptops are so powerful that you can just work on your laptop. And we've seen during the COVID pandemic that when businesses had to move into everybody working from home, for many technology businesses, that actually worked pretty well.
COVID-19 was a game changer. So I'm assuming so you're pretty much home-based, have a home-based operation from home offices then.
Absolutely. And in my previous life as the CEO of an international company, I worked at airports, I worked in taxi cabs, I worked in the hotel. So I always felt that, my office is where my laptop and I are.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, I got to change the word home-based to south-based or wherever
Yes.
you are. You have what kind of a cool thing I like when I was prepping for the podcast called the 5-minute rule, and it makes a lot of sense. What's that all about?
Yeah, so when we had a somewhat bigger company and we were growing really fast, that company was growing about 40% a year. And at the end, we had about 1,000 employees worldwide. So we were adding hundreds of people every year. And we realized that many of those people didn't know stuff that was important for the company. And so we created the 5-minute rule. The 5-minute rule was, if you spend 5 minutes thinking about something and you do not know the answer, go ask someone. And that rule went two ways. First, new people, go ask someone. And everybody who's been there, for longer than a person, when someone asks you, drop what you're doing, answer the question, help them out. Whatever it is, point them to someone else or give them the answer or tell them that, we're not doing this or whatever. And it promoted a culture where people weren't sitting in the cubicle all by themselves, being frustrated because they couldn't work stuff out. And instead, people finding other people in the company, sometimes in different places, who were the expert at something. And the fun thing is, you get a personal relationship with someone that you just asked the question. When you ask people a question and they can help you, it makes them feel really good, independent of whether it is their job or not. And so that's what we promoted. And as a result, many people just were way more efficient, learned much faster because they didn't feel they couldn't ask. Actually, they were told, please go and ask.
You need to trademark or patent this 5-minute rule. I like that. Well, we're now in the election season. What's your plans for expanding app use before Election Day?
Yeah, so we're trying to get the word out that the app is there. We see also on social media all sorts of users that we don't know, like on TikTok and on Facebook, suddenly posting about this great app they found and then tagging us. And so we see that it is mostly word of mouth that more and more people download it. We also do advertise in the App Store. So if you type in election or something like that, then typically our app shows up there. And we see an incredibly increased usage already this year compared to, for instance, 2020. And we're very happy with that because every person who downloads the app not only is clearly interested in voting, which is what we hope. We've done some research over 2020, and we found that people who download the app have a 33% higher chance to vote in the coming election.
Oh, that's good, because people don't realize how low voter turnout is. And
yeah.
So this is kind of like your second election season with the app. You had it out in 2020.
Yeah, well, actually, there was a 2019 election season where in Massachusetts, there was a city council election. Turned out that one of the city councilors had 29,000 votes, and it was one more than the person who did not get elected. So it shows that one vote can really make a difference. And then
every vote counts. Well, Victor Allis, it's been a great discussion on your journey to make democracy work better with your app and ActiVote. Do you have any final points you'd like to share?
I just want to say to everyone, please go vote. I don't care who you vote for. I just care that you vote, because democracy is for all of us.
Well, what about if you live in Lakeville? A shameless plug for my city council, can't say so.
Well, then I think you should vote for you.
Well, Victor Allis, well, before I sign off, I just like to make one recommended to the guest, people listening, and after you listen to this, by tomorrow morning, download this app and get it on your phone and start getting engaged each day, like with that Democracy Minute you all have each morning. And so that's the charter for the listeners. Please support them and make this work better by downloading the app. And Victor Allis, thanks for joining us today on the Home Business Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to learn more about ActiVote, the app, and Victor Allis? Please visit activote.net or our podcast website for more information on guests. Thanks for joining us today on this episode of the Home Business Podcast. Share your feedback with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and at our website, homebusinessmag.com. Subscribe to the newsletter. Read the Home-Based Business Startup Guide. For more information, visit homebusinessmag.com or homebusinessexpo.com. I'm Richard Kemp Henderson saying anchors away. We'll talk with you soon. Until then, make it a great get ready to vote day.